What's up everybody, my name's Rachel, welcome back to Rachel's Reading, and today I'm going to be doing my TBR for the N.E.W.T.s readathon in August. So this readathon is hosted from G from Book Roast, and it is really like the coolest thing I've ever seen. So basically, if you don't know what this is a month-long readathon, and in April we took our OWLs, which was based on the OWLs test that these students take in 5th year of Hogwarts, and all of the prompts correlated to a different subject. So now we're in the N.E.W.T.s, and it's definitely a lot harder because obviously we take the N.E.W.T.s in 7th year of Hogwarts, and so instead of having just one prompt for each subject, there are 3. And obviously, because there are a lot of subjects and a lot of prompts, I counted, I think it comes out to like 33 different prompts if you are trying to do all of them, and that's crazy. I could never do that. But the career that I have chosen to go for, and you can choose careers when doing this readathon, is a healer. And to be a healer, I need N.E., which is exceeded expectations in charms, defense against the dark arts, herbology, potions, and transfiguration. Basically what getting an E means is each class, so transfiguration for example, you can either get an A, which is acceptable, an E, which is exceeded expectations, or an O, which is outstanding. And each of these has a prompt related to it, so if I wanted to get an outstanding in a class, I would have to read 3 books. However, luckily I do not have to get an O in any of my classes to achieve this career as a healer. I just have to get an E in several. That comes to 10 books this month, and also there will be another one included that I did find a way to include in a prompt that I have to read for school. So yeah, let's just get into my TBR. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the book that I have to read for school, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I have read this before. This is going to be a reread for me, so I'm not too worried about not getting this done. This is going to have to be a priority for me just because my school starts in September. I need to get it done by then. But I did find a way to work this into the thing, so I'm using this for Ancient Runes, which is not a class I actually have to complete, but it just like worked in my brain. And the prompt for an A in Ancient Runes is to read a book recommended to you by a friend. Now, I don't know if this really counts, however, I think of my English teacher as my friend. She told me to read this, so this will be happening this month. Now, on to the actual things that I have to read to be a healer. The first thing is Charms. So to get an A in Charms, you have to read a book that you think has a gorgeous cover, and for this I'm going to be finally picking up Nevernight by J. Kristoff. I am so excited to read this. Everybody has been like raving about it. I personally think the UK covers are a little bit prettier than the US covers. However, obviously, because I live in the US, I can probably only get my hands on the US cover, but that's okay because I still think that they're really pretty. So I'm not too sure exactly what it's about, but I know that Nevernight is an adult fantasy. I think it's about a girl who's trying to get revenge on somebody, and she goes to like this assassin school. And I'm here for like a magical, I guess, school kind of trope. I love that. And honestly, I'm mostly excited for this just because everybody's been talking about it. This is a 5-star prediction for me, and I really hope that I love it. To get an E in Charms, you need to read a comic book or a graphic novel. And for me, I'm going to be reading Saga Volume 1. Hello, Editing Rachel is here to tell you that I cannot find a copy of Saga literally anywhere without having to pay for it, and I don't really want to pay for it. So the alternative prompt for this is to read a book that's under 150 pages, and for this I'm going to be reading We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is like a classic horror story, I think. It's supposed to be like really weird, but really good. Shirley Jackson wrote The Haunting of Hill House that the TV show is based off of, so I'm really excited to get to that. Next, for Defense Against the Dark Arts, to get an A acceptable, I need to read a book with black under the dust jacket. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Bazaar of Bad Dreams by Stephen King. This is a collection of short stories, and it is black under the dust jacket. I am super excited to read this because I read Stephen King's short story collection called The Night Shift a few months ago. Absolutely loved it. Obviously, you know I love Stephen King, but I really do love his short stories. I think that even though some of them are very short, that they are very well kind of thought out, even though they are very small. And I'm excited to read this. I'm probably going to be doing this like throughout the month just because, you know, it's a short story collection. I can read like a few every night. Like that. I don't think that any of these have like one correlating theme throughout them. In The Night Shift they didn't. They were just a collection of horror stories, so I'm assuming that that's what this is going to be. For E, for Defense Against the Dark Arts, Exceeded Expectations, you need to read the first book that you thought of from your TBR when you looked at this. So when I watched G's video, I was sitting in my room, and when she said this prompt, I immediately just like looked at my bookshelf, and the first book that caught my eye was The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. So I will be reading this for this prompt. I believe this is like a horror sci-fi story about this girl who I'm assuming has some sort of powers, and she's locked in captivity, and then it says that every morning Melanie waits in her cell to be collected for class. When they come for her, Sergeant Parks keeps his gun pointing at her while two of his people strap her down into the wheelchair. She thinks they don't like her. She jokes that she won't bite, but they don't laugh. That's all that this says. I've heard, again, really good things about this, so I'm really excited to see where this goes. I don't know if this is more horror or sci-fi or like what it is, but I'm really excited for this. So to get an acceptable in herbology, you need to listen to an audiobook, and this is going to be really easy for me. I'm going to be reading the third and final book in the N.E.W.T.s series. I believe this one is called Ship of the Dead. I don't have it with me right now, obviously, but I'm pretty sure. If you don't know, if you haven't been here before, I've been reading the N.E.W.T.s series. It's about Norse mythology, which I think is really interesting. I really love all the characters in this. I think they're super funny, just like Rick Riordan is always super funny. So I'm really excited to close out this series. I don't really know what to say about this just because this is going to be the third book in a series. However, the first one is about this guy named Magnus who used to be homeless, and then you know, there are people looking for him, and they find him and sweep him up into the world of Norse mythology. And I think that it's really fantastic. It's really enjoyable. Obviously, it's not the most like poignant, beautiful book that you've ever read, but I think that it's super fun, and I really like the audiobook, so I'm excited to listen to this. To get an exceeded expectations in herbology, you need to read a book that is between 350 and 390 pages. So obviously this prompt is super open. But for this I'm choosing Black Iris by Leah Rader. I plan on listening to this on an audiobook as well. And I'm not too sure exactly what this book is about, but I know that it is an adult thriller suspense novel, I believe, with maybe a bit of romance. I know that it is about this girl who had a crush on another girl, and people found out, and they called her a bunch of names and really bullied her, and so when she goes off to college, she wants a clean slate. And then I believe the plot is that it says a ghost from her past like resurfaces. So I'm assuming, you know, whatever mystery that is, that will ensue. And yeah, I'm really excited to read this. I haven't heard many people talk about it, but the people who I have heard talk about it really like it. So I'm excited for this. I really am expecting, like, I'm going in like expecting nothing, and hopefully I enjoy it. So to get an acceptable in potions, you need to read a friend's favorite. Now G said that if you do not have any bookish friends or friends that read or want to recommend you anything, you can read a book that another booktuber recommends. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Obviously a lot of people talk about this and I've recommended it. Personally, I am thinking about Leo Reed's recommendation because she read this and said that she loved it. So yeah, this is an adult retelling of the myth of Achilles from Greek mythology. I'm really excited to read this because I've heard nothing but good things about Madeline Miller's writing. I've heard that it's very like beautiful and kind of flowery, but not too flowery to the point that it gets annoying. And yeah, I'm super excited to read this because I love Greek mythology. I've always been interested in it. To get an exceeded expectations in potions, you need to read a book with your house color on it, and I'm a Ravenclaw, so that means for blue. I'm going to be reading Rosemary's Baby by Ear 11. So if you don't know what this is about, the movie's really popular. It's basically about this woman who gives birth to like Satan. And I actually, for a really long time, had no idea that this was a book. I've always really loved the movie. I love horror movies, if you can't tell by the Exorcist poster behind me. But I'm really excited to read this. It's really short. The audiobook is like 6 hours and I plan on listening to it. So I'm really excited to read this and get spooked. And the last class I have is Transfiguration, and to get an acceptable in this, you need to read a book with LGBT rep, and for this I'm going to be reading Tell Me How You Really Feel by Amina Safe. This is a YA like contemporary romance about two girls who start off like hating each other. It's like an enemies to lovers thing, and I love that trope so much, and especially with queer girls, I think this is gonna be really good. I've heard nothing but good things, and people just say that they love it, that it's really cute and funny, and I'm really excited to read this. And for exceeded expectations, you have to read the book that is not the first in a series. So for this, I'm going to be reading Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchland series. I read the first book, Truth Witch, this month, and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm really excited to continue with the series. This is a YA fantasy circling around these powers that people have. Some people are truth witches, which means they can tell if people are lying or not. You have thread witches, which is basically where you can tell people's emotions with these little threads that you see around them. Fire witches, wind witches, stuff like that, where you can control the elements. And I think that it's really interesting. It's about these two girls who their land is basically on the brink of war, and they are kind of running from the law, sort of. They did something that they shouldn't have, and people are trying to capture them. And it's very good. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to continue with this series. That is my official TBR for the Newts. Those are the books that I have to get done, because I'm crazy. I wrote out a TBR for all 33 prompts, even though obviously I really didn't need to because there's no way that that's gonna happen, but I do have some like backups and stuff if I do finish all of these books, and I want to continue reading in August. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that your Newts go fantastic. I love you. Bye!